Okay, we're going on. It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. The analysts are in. Gbubemi and Mr. C. Good morning and welcome. Would love for you to be a part of the conversation. As always, the WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981. That's the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Gbubemi.
Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Gbubemi. Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Lagos and the rest of the world.
All right, starting off with the headline coming from Punch. First anniversary, Tinubu directs 47 ministers to showcase scorecards.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. So, the president has directed 47 ministers he appointed to display their scorecards for the first year of his administration. Now, this is instructive because he had promised upon assumption of office that ministers he appointed will be subjected to performance reviews, and those who do not make the grade will be asked to leave. Now, having said that, we're now waiting for the 47 ministers to present their scorecards. Now, over the past 12 months, it will be agreed that some ministers have completely been quiet. There's been no news of what they're doing, what they've been up to. So it will be a real mystery as to what they intend to present. Now, let's take the aggregate, even though we haven't seen the scorecards. Nigerians can generally rate the performance of this administration in its first year across several sectors. We can look at the economy, we can look at security, we can look at education, we can look at housing, we can look at healthcare. So, despite the fact that we haven't seen the scorecards, we pretty much have an idea of where we are as a nation at this critical point in time. Furthermore, of the 47 ministers, I'm pretty certain that a majority of Nigerians would be hard pressed to name any 10 that have impressed in this first year of administration. So, yes, they've been asked to present their scorecards. We will wait for them to present their scorecards. But beyond that, what is the plan? Are you going to fire them as you initially promised? And if you're not going to fire them, what's the plan for the next 3 years? Because next week, Wednesday, marks the commencement of the second year of this administration. And frankly speaking, what we were promised and what has been delivered so far are miles apart. So the bigger question is this: what is the plan post presentation of scorecards? And only the administration can answer this question.
All right, thanks for that, Mr. C. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. Let us know your thoughts. Which ministers do you think have maybe done well enough to get a pass mark, or which other ministers do you think need to perhaps step down and give someone else a chance to hopefully do better? You can tweet at Smooth981. From Vanguard, FG moves to reopen Samia Benin Republic border. Remy?
Okay, so if we recall, I think it was when President Buhari 2018 or 2019 at some point ordered the closure of all the land borders with Benin Republic rather, in a bid to sort of stem illegal exports and imports, largely exports, and also links to petroleum. At some point later, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, the Samia border was reopened, but some of the other borders were not reopened. So this consideration is to reopen the this Samia border, which links Nigeria with Kebbi. So if we remember the map of Nigeria, totally on our left side, Nigeria is completely bordered all the way from the Atlantic Ocean up north towards, I think, Niger Kebbi axis, and there are quite a lot of borders there. So this consideration is it was a meeting that was held between Nigerian and Beninois representatives to discuss the reopening, also to discuss the possible arrangements that would surround the opening, also to investigate the benefits of the reopening in terms of what both countries can gain from that. So one of the things I've always considered regarding borders actually is the actual existence of the borders. So if we look at Nigeria, for example, not all of our land borders are manned. We have a lot of open borders, you know. So even though we've had some borders that were closed at some point, there was still a lot of illegal smuggling that was going on across many other unmanned borders across the country, which is still a point for a point for review. You know, so even as we're discussing this, it's also important for us to discuss the fact that a lot of our landmass areas bordering not just even with Niger, with Benin Republic, but also with Niger Republic, with Cameroon, with Chad, lie unmanned, and there's still a lot of illegal smuggling going on between both of these things. So this also calls for an opportunity for the government to also investigate things like security issues, for example, because you can have people perpetrating crime across borders and fleeing without any restraint. You know, we also need to look at securing the borders in regards to that. So not just in terms of smuggling of goods, but also in terms of maintaining our national security. So this is welcome. The date hasn't been fixed exactly, but as it said, they're still in discussions to determine when it will be opened and what benefits will accrue to both countries.
All right, thanks for that, Gbubemi. 0809 Next headline comes from Daily Trust. CBN asks BDC operators to apply for new licenses.
Thank you, Zibby. So the Central Bank of Nigeria has directed all Bureau de Change operators and companies to reapply for fresh licenses. Now, this is instructive given the recent developments in the banking and economics circles. Now, they issued new regulatory guidelines, and they're about 26 pages. We don't have the time sufficient enough to address the changes in the guidelines. However, it's important to note that under the new guidelines, we have two grades of BDCs. We have the national BDCs, which can open branches all over the nation and even franchise out their operations, but each of the franchisees must maintain the main franchisor's brand naming, technology, platform, and the rest. Now, why are they being asked to do this? Because of the peculiar times we find ourselves in, and the fact that we're trying to manage our forex supplies for now. That's why these regulations have become necessary. Also, it's been believed for a period of time that a lot of these BDCs only exist to receive foreign currency from the CBN and do not actually engage in any serious economic activity. Now, with the new guidelines, they're expected to make daily returns of the operations by 10 a.m. the next morning. So it's interesting how this plays out long term, but interesting times ahead.
All right, thanks, Mr. C. Let's go on to WhatsApp. Emeka says, out of 47 ministers, finding 5 top performing would be daunting. The realities confront us daily. Well, it's up to Nigerians to assess. Mr. C, there is an organization or a team that's been put up to do this assessment, right?
So a team was put up. It was led by Mrs. Hadiza Mohammed. She was the former head of the Nigerian Post Authority. So they started their work, I think, end of March, beginning of April. So I think that's completed. And let's just wait for the scorecards to come out.
All right. Let's look at a message coming through from Adigboyega. He says, we keep talking and blaming insecurity, insurgency, smuggling, etc. on poor borders. Border control, okay, as if we don't know why the borders are like that. The smugglers and customs are doing the same job. The difference is just that one is wearing a government uniform. Both are partners in crime. Dan Okuda says, majority of the ministers have performed abysmally low. There's really nothing to showcase by them. New hands should come on board. Samuel from Lekki says, what we were promised, according to your analyst, what we were promised is miles apart from what we were getting. I'm not even sure we're promised anything. Even the slogan of renewed hope came much later after inauguration. The only thing I remember from his very few words during campaign, that is the president, of course, was that he would continue where the former president Buhari stopped, and he's impressive with that. All right. Keep the messages coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live as well, so you can catch that live stream on YouTube, Smooth981. That is the channel. JP says, why do we have 47 ministers presented when Hadiza Usman had the job? She should share the status of KPI versus results. A lot is left to be desired. Samuel says, personally, I don't believe, okay, personally, none of them have really done much. It's still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues shortly. But wait, can you hear Mr. C clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good, good.
Gbubemi, how many have performed in your opinion?
Maybe just one, and that would be the Minister of Interior.
So you're not impressed with Wale Edu?
What has he done? Sorry, give me 1 second.
It's still freshly pressed on Smooth and 98.1. The analysts are in, Mr. C and Gbubemi. We're still looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. Let us know your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. Next headline comes from Punch. Nigerian students in the UK battle expulsion threats over Naira crisis.
Okay, so this story is reported from the BBC, specifically with regards to Teesside University. And what has happened is that some of the students, if they've come together as a group, about 60 of them, there may be more, were found to have defaulted on the payment schemes that they had negotiated with the university. So the usual process in applying for a student visa is that once you get an admission from the university will sponsor your visa application. And for the university to sponsor your visa application, you need to make like a deposit payment to the university. So usually the universities would ask for a certain percentage, and then spread the payments maybe over 2 semesters. The expectation is that before you graduate, that you'd have paid all your fees in full. However, because of the economic situation in Nigeria, lots of students have found themselves having to renegotiate their school fees payment. So Teesside University themselves have actually even said that they recognize this. And instead of following their traditional payment plans, they've allowed students to enter into even monthly payment plans. So they had some of the students had defaulted initially. The university had identified them and had entered into new payment plans with those students and who had further gone ahead to default on those plans. Now, according to Home Office rules, the university is bound to inform them when such things occur. For example, so if a student hasn't paid their fees by a certain time, they are required to inform the Home Office, which is what the university has done. Now, the students are saying that the university has not, that they've pleaded with the university to extend their payment deadlines or to renegotiate payments with them on, because of the economic issues that they've cited with the university. The university has said that they are duty bound to notify the Home Office when things like this occur because the students have already defaulted on a previous negotiated agreement. So I hear the students, I hear the university, it's a bit of a dilemma. And, some of the students, one of the students was even cited to have said that she had paid about 90% of her fees. She had done exams. All she needed to do was just to submit her dissertation and she was kicked off the course. So now she's had to leave the UK or she has to leave the UK by a certain period of time. And she cannot appeal that decision from the Home Office. Like I said, so this is one university, Teesside University. We don't know whether, other universities, other Nigerians and other universities have also experienced this. It's a bit of a dilemma, really, because, like I had cited, universities are duty bound to notify the Home Office, and considering that these students had already been granted some form of concession and their payment plans renegotiated and they had gone ahead to default on it. I sort of can see, Teesside University's position in, having to notify the Home Office. It's a bit of a, it's a bit of an uncomfortable issue, really. But I mean, in that part of the world, they typically would work with the existing laws, and they would already managed to bend their rules a bit in the first instance. So asking them to do it again in the second instance might be tough. The prerogative lies with the university actually, because the Home Office says that they've left, the universities with the power to notify them or not, and the university has decided to take that power to notify the Home Office of this situation. So I mean, it's really a bit of an issue for the students. Many of them will have to come back, as the Home Office has also said that they cannot what's that word? They can't appeal, sorry, they can't appeal this decision.
Okay, so let me quickly jump in on this, right? So I am aware that with regards to university admissions, right, you can actually defer your course for a semester or two, and you formally notify the university. Did these 60 students actually tour that path? Because if you're already aware that you're behind on your payments and you're unlikely to meet the payment deadline, why not defer the course? Now, the sad thing about this is if all 60 are returned to Nigeria, it will be extremely difficult for them to get fresh visas granted to them because they have flouted the conditions upon which the present visas were given to them.
So I'm just curious about this. I mean, studying outside Nigeria can be very expensive, especially in these times. There are people who've traveled to study, and then a few weeks after they've arrived in the UK, they're crowdfunding on social media for people to help them pay their fees. So when these sort of things happen, does it not in some way cast a lot of doubt on genuine students who are actually affected by these problems?
So I think that's probably also part of what has led to this, because this situation didn't start this year. Ever since we've had our currency forex upheavals, from about 2015, 2016, we've heard of instances of things like this. It's just now that it's probably made mainstream news. So yeah, I would say that, that has also affected quite a lot of other people. The expectation is that, yes, you may not have all your fees on resumption, but before a certain time limit set by the university, you should have paid those fees. And the universities don't expect you to come to the UK and earn money to pay those fees, because typically there's a cap on the number of hours that you can work. There's also a cap on the amount of money that you can earn. So if you look at, consider that cap in terms of the number of hours you can work and what you can earn, there's almost no way you can save to pay the average school fee. So for foreign students, for example, school fees, probably in the average university would be like 16 to 18,000 pounds. If you translate that into Naira, we know what that means, so it's really a tough one.
Right, let's look at a few messages coming through. Wale from Abuja says, isn't it funny how Nigerians are super vested in holding ministers accountable, but they don't know who their governors are, can't identify their state legislators or commissioners. Tony Chima says, all I want to do is dance. That's the remarkable promise this government made to Nigerians during their campaign. Okay, let's move on to Daily Trust. Federal government to review basic education curriculum.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. So it's no secret that Nigeria's current basic education curriculum isn't fit for purpose. It's outdated, it's stuck in the stone age, and hasn't really helped Nigerians develop. Now, having said that, the federal government has now initiated a comprehensive review of the basic education curriculum, and this is designed to take place over the next 5 days at a workshop in Abuja. Now, my question is this: is 5 days sufficient for a complete and comprehensive review of the basic education curriculum of Nigeria? I sincerely have my doubts, because the way workshops typically go, they struggle to start on time, they break for lunch, and after lunch, everybody's simply not interested in the rest of the proceedings. Now, having said that, it's good that they want to bring it in line with modern contemporary events, bring in more technology, and ensure that the students are equipped to move on with life at its current level. However, there is another concern, and this concern is this. Yes, even if we bring in foreign experts to review our curriculum for us, it still requires people to impart this new curriculum into the students. Do we have teachers who are sufficiently capable of transferring and imparting knowledge into students from a reviewed curriculum? And I say this because the quality of primary school teachers across the nation leaves a lot to be desired. We've seen in a number of states, Edo and Kaduna states, where primary school teachers were failing basic math, basic exams that primary four students should be passing. And primary four students are year four students, by the way. So it's a real mystery how we intend to go about this. Now, if we discover we do not have the teachers to impart this new curriculum, what do we do? So apart from reviewing the basic education curriculum, let's look at the curricula that is being applied in the teacher training colleges all over the nation. Should they be improved? Definitely. Should you bring in more technology? Yes. So this cannot be an isolated move. You also, as you are improving the curriculum for the students, you also have to improve and bring up to date the curriculum for the teachers so that there'll be an enhanced synergy, there'll be harmony in what we're doing, and that 10, 20 years down the line, we will start to reap the benefits and the fruits of a comprehensive and coordinated education policy.
All right, thank you, Mr. C. Let's move on to Premium Times. Reps change strategy on security motions to send resolutions to NSA.
So, the House of Representatives have resolved to forward all resolutions on security that they debate to the Office of the National Advisor, of the Office of the National Security Advisor, rather. So prior to this, what they had usually done was once they debate insecurity issues, they'd forward to, relevant committees like Defense, Army, National Security Intelligence, and all of that. But they've realized that, it's hard to implement those resolutions when they're forwarded to those committees. So the logical thing for them has been to forward it to the Office of the National Security Advisor, who is in charge of advising the president and overseeing or supporting security agencies with the implementation of security issues, investigation and implementation of security issues. I think this makes a bit of sense. They also cited, that in the past month they had declared about a minute silence 10 times. It's and it's not surprising because every practically every week there's some sort of security situation that happens across the country. Not everything makes the news, so we can just imagine the scale at which of our security issues across the country. Well, the expectation is that the Office of the National Security Advisor can better liaise with all the other security agencies to be able to investigate and resolve these issues once the House committees have deliberated on them. I think the focus is on ensuring some form of execution and implementation, so it goes beyond talk to actually something being done about it. I hope that we can see some sort of change with this new directive. All of the House of Reps members voted in support of this motion. So I hope rather that once this is implemented, the Office of the National Security Advisor will be able to take on all of these issues and address them properly. Our security issues, have beclouded a lot of all the things that affect the country. We have a lot of other, foreign countries citing security concerns. And once Nigeria comes up in the news, it would be nice for us to gradually achieve a change in that.
All right, thank you, Gbubemi. Let's go on to some messages. Emeka says, I don't even know the name of the Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria and is the most important ministry in Nigeria now. There's hunger in the country. I believe that would be Abubakar Kiari. Yinka Bolu says, our hearts go out to the affected students. However, we also face challenges here. Our schools in Nigeria have issues that require our immediate attention. Addressing these concerns isn't our priority. Therefore, my proposed solution is for those students to transfer back home to complete their studies unless they have other plans we are not aware of. Moving on to Vanguard, solution to bad governance in Africa is more democracy, and that's according to the presidents.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. So there was a summit yesterday on the state of democracy in Africa, and the president, who was represented by his vice, Mr. Shatima, was advocating that his solution to bad governance in Africa is more governance, is more democracy, and enhancing economic and free trade opportunities across Africa. Because in his opinion, if we have more democracy and leaders, African leaders are continually urged to respect constitutional tenets such as term limits, ensure credible elections and autonomous institutions, along with deepening the economic integration along the sub-regional and continental levels, that we will see an increase in democracy, or we'll see better democracy. Now, I disagree. I find it interesting that Mr. President did not speak about enhancing anti-corruption issues. I find it very interesting, also interesting, that he did not speak about reducing the gap, the inequality gap between the haves and the have-nots. I find it most interesting that he did not speak about strengthening democracy, ensuring free and fair elections, upholding the rule of law, and ensuring the judiciary does its work the way it's supposed to. And then finally, that he didn't speak about investing in people, education, and healthcare. Because if all these things are absent and all you're talking about is conduct more elections, whether they're conducted properly or not, enhancing free trade opportunities across Africa, those measures in themselves are not sufficient to deepen democracy in Africa or make governance better. It is when you have strong institutions, free and credible elections, you've invested in the people, you've diversified your economies, that you will find that governance in Africa will improve substantially.
All right, thanks for that, Mr. C. We can take two more messages. This one is from Joseph Many, and he says, scorecard of what exactly? Can we list anything or any ministries working? Talk less of the federal government. All we can unifyingly agree is the scorecard: higher food inflation, unemployment, electricity hike, petroleum products price hike, non-priorities. It's a long message. Thank you, Joseph. And let's see, this one is from AB Ambo. AB says, I am waiting, seriously, waiting to hear from Professor Wale Soyinka to give his assessment on the administration of the current president. He's told us he would give his assessment after 1 year. I would like to speak after he has spoken. All right. And this one is coming through, and this one is from Orov. And Orov thanks Mr. C for his kindness. And yeah, that is it for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for your messages. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to catch the episodes of this show. It comes up every weekday from 7:30 here on the Smooth Breakfast. And a special thanks, of course, to our analysts, Mr. C and Gbubemi, for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
That is it for Freshly Pressed, but do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.